If you think it, you believe it. There's one thing they're missing. Hell, who the fuck are you to try to tell me how to live my life? So how can you take advice from someone who doesn't even know themselves and you don't even know yourselves? Recording and going live. So if you get nothing away from this podcast, there's one thing I want you to learn from this. It goes along like this. The more insecure you are, the more harder you try to be perfect to mask up these flaws. And in this week's episode, I'll be talking about why self-help can destroy you and why it is so dangerous to who you are as a person. But before that, I like to warm it up and shout out to all the people that commented in the last video and shout out to all the people that hate me for that video. It's like, I'm going to shout out a Tyler Hero song, all the ones that hate me look just like me. You tell me what that means. So I'm just going to warm it up a bit and start off with a little, although we've come to the end of the road and I still can't go. It's a natural. You belong to me. I belong to you. Hey. So in this video and podcast available on Spotify, iTunes, as well as Anchor, I'll be talking about insecurities as well as the whole self-help. Chances are, if you ever come across that one person that's like, hey man or girl, you should read this book. This book will help you improve your life. You should watch this YouTube video. Guess what? I was that damn person, right? To give you all a little backstory is that when I was 14, 15 years old, I was this really quiet, introverted kid that no one knew and got picked around, and I just know I didn't feel like anybody. And I felt just like a sheep. And it wasn't until I turned 19 years old and puberty kicked in, I was like, I don't want to be that loser anymore. And I decided to jump on and find out this self-help discovery train, which is great when I first started, right? I got this huge dopamine rush. I was like, man, I'm improving myself. I felt like a character stat build, and I'm like, I need a +4 strength, +5 defense. I got to increase my financial literacy skills. I got to learn how to make more passive income. I got to learn more digital marketing skills. So you go along this train of like reading all these self-help books that people recommend to you, right? Famous ones like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, or Think and Grow Rich. And there's some controversy behind this book as well. So with all those self-help books, the reality is I barely even finished all of them, any of them, right? And you get this little rush of, hey, I'm going to improve myself and I'm getting smarter. But the reality is, it's this essentially being, yeah, that's exactly what it meant. So all my books just fell down. So it's exactly what that meant. It means that you're being busy, you're being active, but you're not being productive in actually what you want to do. Just because y'all probably know those people that like, hey man, I gotta wake up at 5 a.m., have my morning routine, have a night routine, I need to have this and this and this. And the reality is, some of the greatest successful people that I actually look up to, besides in the fake guru land, is that Gary Vee, he doesn't even read a damn book. And just because you read these books, it doesn't mean you'll instantly become a millionaire. Just because you wake up at 5 a.m. and do all these stupid routines, it doesn't mean that you actually have a business. It doesn't know what the hell you're talking about. And it kind of leads me into the notion of this whole culture that we live in is you don't want to get sucked into this self-help hustle porn world, which will definitely affect you. Because yes, it feels great when you pick up this book, you learn about little things like, hey, you got to pay yourself first before you pay other people. And yes, you can get knowledge and things that you actually can take away and that are applicable in your real life. But don't get into the mindset of, it becomes an addiction where it's like you start buying these books and you buy so many of these books, these self-help books, they just end up on your shelf and you don't even end up touching or reading any of them. Because in your brain, you're like, okay, I'm so insecure. I need to learn more about this. I read this book and now I've suddenly just become a lot better as a person. You see what I'm trying to get at? is that yes, you can read a book and learn so much and it can change your life. But the reality is, most people don't learn that well from books, right? How about all the books that you learned in high school and university? How much percent of that is actually retained into your brain? Like 15%, even less? And with these self help books, a lot of them are really generic, and a lot of them you can find online by watching just a simple YouTube video that's only a minute long. And I wanted to talk about hustle porn. Hustle porn is that whole mentality, you see those Instagram quotes, just hustle, work hard, you know, all you got to do is do this one thing, and it's so important, you'll grind it out. But there's one thing that all of these self-help books that tell you, you can achieve the life. If you think it, you believe it. There's one thing they're missing, and that's talent, right? Just because you work super hard doesn't mean that you're talented, right? You don't want to be delusional. And that's the thing that I needed to separate myself is that, yeah, man, I'm not going to be a Logan Paul. Or, for example, what I like to use is that let's say you want to be Michael Jordan, but you're unfortunately 4'11 and you have never played a single game of basketball, right? You can be like Michael Jordan, you can do all the things that he does, you can do shoot everything, but the reality is to get to up to that level, chances are that's not going to happen, and talent is such a huge variable. Just because everyone wants to be an entrepreneur in this digital age, just because you want to be a YouTuber, doesn't mean you're going to actually be a YouTuber. So, back on the notion of these dangerous self help books, is that if you don't actually look into your self discovery, and if you actually don't look at yourself and do the things that you want and do things that excite you, and do the things that you actually look into and process your own trauma, look at the people, talk to the people, and if you really want to get help, seek professional help instead of reading all these books, that is where the answer lies, right? You, your life, a lot of people are lost, right? A lot of people just are trying to find their issues and solve that one problem they have. And the reality is, it's probably mommy daddy issues. And they're looking for an escape, an answer, a band aid. And that comes from a lot of these self help books. It comes from buying all these 997 courses. And just because you buy a course does not mean that it's going to fix all the problems or issues that you have in here. And which is why, for the longest time, I realized that, wait a minute, I don't even learn that well through reading books. But to my right here, I do have a collection of a lot of these self help books, which I used to read before I go to bed. And I still do if I want to have a snooze fest. But the reality is, how I learned the best for me and how I actually learned and grew as a person is I sat with my own thoughts, figured out what do I do that really excites me? What makes me happy? How can I improve on the things that make me happy? And how do I look at my own things and my own patterns and my own trauma and things that I grew up and look at the way that I think and behave? And how do I, as a person, me as a human being, not try to be perfect, right? Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, the more perfect you try to be, the more insecure you actually are, and you're trying to mask that up. And it's like the more I actually loved myself and learning self discovery and self love, I might make a future podcast on this, stay tuned. The more I just felt at peace with myself, right? And who I am and my own self worth should not be dictated on numbers. It should not be dictated on someone spitting poison in your face, right? The other day, I got a bunch of lovely comments, right? A lot of people of y'all been still watching me from 5 years ago. And I know it's not a huge crowd, but for me, it's like, it touches my heart. Shout outs to all the people that watch me and support me. But at the same time, there's people who are just like me, probably 40 and miserable with their lives, talking shit to someone on their internet. And I'll never understand that until I did understand that, is that the more you look into yourself and not go through external things like reading a book, the more you love yourself, the more you can start to feel sorry for other people. The more you start to empathize and understand the world, the more. And for this past year and a half, I've literally haven't touched any self-help books, and I've really looked into myself and a little bit of spirituality to see and really look at who I am and who I've become. And when I talked about that 14 to 15-year-old Peter, is that, he pops up once in a while, And that Peter is still there. And just like the 28-year-old Peter and 29-year-old Peter, is that I'm a much very different person than I was back then. And the whole purpose of that is that we all have these little inner childs in us. We're all trying to feel loved and accepted for just who we are as human beings. And the more you try to read a book, you end up not doing what you really want to do. If I could go back in time and tell myself, instead of reading all these books, spending all these money, like you get a little rush. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm improving myself. Yeah. But you're not really doing anything. You need to do things that make you more happy in life. And I can't answer that for you, right? None of these self books can answer that for you. And I was on TikTok, by the way, follow me at Broke the Habit, is that there's this Will Smith video talking about life advice. And there's people out there that are going to try to tell you how to live your life. There's going to be people out there that think they know everything. There's people on even this YouTube channel that watch a little glimpse of this podcast. They're like, I know exactly who you are. I know everything you go through. You should do this, this, and this. But the reality is, what you're watching right now is even not real reality. It's just, you have to take it for what it is, right? Entertainment. And most people don't even know themselves, right? So how can you take advice from someone who doesn't even know themselves and you don't even know yourselves?
Nobody knows but you. You can't get advice on what you should do with your life, right? Nobody knows what you are. Like even sometimes you don't really even know what you are. You got to take your shot.
Some days you wake up, I wake up, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing, man? I feel so lost and tired. That's a normal feeling that I'll talk about in another Potter. But it's like, it's okay to feel like that, right? But it's like you need to figure out what it is that you want and you need to believe in that. When someone points a finger in your face, think of that time in UFC, I think it was like 200 something, where Conor McGregor was at his peak and prime, doing what he wants to do and he's loved and he's super talented and skillful at it. And then you have this dude in the back, Jeremy Stephens, talking shit, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes along lines of his action and being like, who the fuck is you? Who the fuck is this guy? I can't do like an Irish accent, but you know, that was hilarious as hell, but it's true, man.
Give you the hardest fight out of anybody on stage.
Right here, the hardest hitting 145 pound, the real hardest hitting 145er, right here. This guy TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't fucking move. They're not, who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
You are the Conor McGregor of your life, you know? You are that main character, and you know, all that chirping, like who the fuck are you to try to tell me how to live my life, right? Who the hell are you? Worry about your own damn life, right? It's always funny where I get haters that think they know the secret pill to unlock my life. At the end of the day, do me, boo, and you do you. You feel me? And yeah, guys, I just want to do a quick little podcast session on, you know, self-help and why it's dangerous. Don't get me wrong, you know, there's a lot of things that I learned, but also there's a lot of things I could have learned by just watching a simple video instead of investing into these books, and it becomes addiction. And dopamine addiction is a real thing where it's like you have this false sense of, hey, I'm solving my issues, but I'm really not solving my issues. And if you want to watch and listen more of these, you guys make this channel. Let me know in the comments below what you want me to talk about next. I'll definitely make a future topic on that. And who knows, your boy might be going on a date soon and recording that. Yeah, man. So my name is Peter. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Broke the Habit podcast, where I try to help you become a better person through my own life lessons, because I'm always about team you do you, man. We live in a world where everyone's trying to point fingers. I'm all about really look at yourself, look in the mirror, and it's like, do what's best for you, right? Although we've come to the end of the road. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up. Do it for the algorithms, and you're watching another episode of Broke the Habit, Vancouver's #1 podcast on Asian identity, Vietnamese, Canadian struggles, as well as working and having the conflict to feel, I don't even know, I need to find a slogan one day, but my name is Peter, you're watching Broke the Habit, thanks for tuning in. Deuces.